Joining us on stage to sing from Los Angeles, Willie Green Jr. From Los Angeles, Sweet Pea Atkinson.
Well, look at this site here. As you guys probably know, today is the greatest day in Mahoning drive-in history. You guys helped us save the Mahoning drive-in theater. Like I said, this proves the power of the drive-in. For all of you guys here, this is about the love of the drive-in culture. You guys are the drive-in culture. So give it up for yourselves. Thank you guys. We owe you our lives. For another 72 years, we are going to be right here delivering fun like this. But tonight is not about me and this success, because we have the king of the drive-in here. How ironic that we have the king of the drive-in here. So if you guys can help us introduce the man of the hour.
Wait, what's his name? I think it's Joe Bob Briggs!
See, I knew I was going to regret this. You know, well, first of all, everybody, welcome to the Mahoning, you know? The drive-in is so famous, people have to stop at roadside snake farms to ask directions just to figure out where it is, you know? How many of you got lost coming up here today?
I did not.
Quite a few, because I know some of you came from southern Louisiana. Well, welcome to Appalachia, all right? Because we're at the front end of the Great Appalachian Valley here.
Yeah!
Delaware River from New Jersey, right up here at the Delaware Water Gap. And then it runs all the way down to Alabama. And I know we have some people from the Coosa Valley of Alabama who are here today too. And but welcome to the first night of Joe Bob's Drive-In Jamboree. This is a 4-day orgy of nonsense structured around your movies that your mother is probably ashamed of you for watching. I want to thank Jeff Maddox, the owner of the Mahoning.
Woo!
Jeff has been here a long, long time, and I want to thank Virgil Cardamone, who you just met, the programming director of the Mahoning. Virgil, I always forget your actual title. I'm calling you the programming director. Virgil is basically the P.T. Barnum of this operation. And really the whole Mahoning team, they have been very kind to us, and they've done everything that we needed to be done. A year ago, the idea for the Jamboree did not even exist. I mean, 6 months ago, I was driving through a snowstorm to get to Virgil's house, which is out in the boonies, so we could start planning it out. And now it's finally happening, and it's a combination film festival, TV show, haunted house attraction, concert, horror convention, camp out, and summer barbecue staged in honor of the American drive-in tradition. So, and I hope the Jamboree is also a sanctuary for many of you who have been cooped up for a year, waiting to be released from the plague, and we finally are. So before I start here, I probably don't need to do this for this crowd, but I do it for every crowd. Let me just make one comment here at the beginning about safe spaces and trigger warnings, all right? When I was a young man just starting out in journalism, Pennsylvania, and the county seat of Cumberland County is, anyone know? You probably all know here, Carlisle, Pennsylvania.
Woo!
And actually the biggest concentration of Presbyterians in the world to this day is in central Pennsylvania. James Carville, remember him, the political advisor to Bill Clinton? He used to say Pennsylvania is Philadelphia in the east and Pittsburgh in the west,
The T.
with Alabama in between. and so these right here are mountains that are right here on the side of us. The first place where it's easy to, right before that, number 7, is the Cumberland Valley. And so until they got down to Roanoke, right here. Ever wonder what the purpose of Roanoke was? Why it's there, besides being the hometown of Wayne Newton? To redirect the rednecks. It's a redneck crossroads. Roanoke is the only place where there's 2 gaps through the mountains. One gap goes east through the Blue Ridge, and the other one keeps on going southwest down to Kentucky and Tennessee. So the redneck had a choice when he got to Roanoke. He could go east into the Piedmont region of North Carolina and win the NCAA basketball championship and protest against transgender bathrooms, or if he was a glutton for more punishment, he could continue on west and bust through the Cumberland Gap, over the Cumberland River, over the Cumberland Mountains, past the Cumberland Falls, toward the Cumberland River, and the Country Music Hall of Fame in Nashville. So is there any doubt where these people came from? Southern...
Yeah.
Which one of them you want to do first? I ain't for sure yet. Amy?
Meanie.
Get you, nigga. Do it. I'll let go. My mother said, big you are it. Guess that means you, big boy.
Okay, that was, of course, the famous Bring Out the Gimp scene from Tennessee native Quentin Tarantino's Pulp Fiction. Nowhere is it stated in that movie that these 2 guys and the Gimp are from the South, or might be rednecks, but we sort of know where they come from, don't we? Yes, those are definitely Scots-Irish Presbyterian torturers. So my question is, John Knox, what the heck did you create? And so we come to the first rule of rednecks in film. It all starts with hillbillies. From the hooch, Appalachian moonshiners. The older generation is upset by young whippersnappers stealing their customers. The owner of the country store conspires with the mafia. Danny Aiello is the mob guy. And note the artistic detail here. You can wear the cutoff shorts with heels or barefoot. Eat My Dust, Roger Corman film. Ron Howard wanted to be a director. So Roger told him that if he agreed to act in this film, he would be allowed to direct the next film. So here's Ron with Christopher Norris as his hot girlfriend in hot pants and boots. And Ron is the best driver in Puckerbush County. And that's the whole plot. But the trend did not end with the 70s redneck movie. You had 80s classics like Redneck Zombies. That's the immortal Lisa DeHaven rocking those Levi's. And in the 90s, you had Juliette Lewis in Natural Born Killers. And after the turn of the century, you had Brittany Daniel in Joe Dirt, and Jamie Presley in Joe Dirt, and Charlotte McKinney in Joe Dirt 2. Scoring a double whammy as the first girl to think of cut-off overalls. And of course, mainstream Hollywood eventually appropriates everything. And so by 2011, you have Cameron Diaz going redneck in Bad Teacher. But anyway, that's enough butts in denim. I'm making these people right here in this area right here, they're getting nervous. Joe Bob was disgusting. He was talking about 16th century theologians, and he was showing slides of young girls' crotches. I just don't know what's wrong with that guy. So let's deal with the male of the species, okay? My next category of classic redneck film is called You're From Out of State. The angry, vengeance-seeking redneck. And when I say that, I don't necessarily mean he's a villain. Let me show you what I mean with this clip starring Vittorio Gassman as a sleazy pimp and sex trafficker who moves his operation into Atlanta, and he likes to dine at fancy restaurants with 5 prostitutes at his table.
Oh, Sergeant Sharkey. Please sit down.
No, thanks. I just came to look.
What do you see?
Nothing much.
You want to have some food? It's Chinese food, without a trace of Western corruption. Pure.
I've got you by the ass.
Oh,
All the way from selling little girls to murder.
how does it feel?
It feels great. It feels like you're a lump of shit. Lying in the bottom of a commode. And I got my hand on the chain. Just waiting to pull it.
Look at you. Righteous anger, defender of the people. Tell me something, Sharkey. Why are the people on my side? Why do they line up with me instead of you? Huh? Confusing times. You have nothing. No tapes, no link with Hodgkins except a dead woman. He's as good as governor. You're an outcast about to lose that badge of yours. You're about as bothersome to me as something stuck to the bottom of my shoe. As I see it, you have 2 choices. You can disappear. Or maybe I can throw something your way. Perhaps even another domino. Pick one. Go ahead. Of course, she won't be quite as good. Domino was the best. She was 12 when I found her. Can you imagine? I taught her, and I taught her, until she began to teach me. Yes, she was the best, because I created her. Anyway, that's all academic, because she's gone.
She's alive. Have you talked to Tiffany lately? Somehow I get the feeling that your rear end is puckering up. I'm gonna pull a chain on you, pal. And you wanna know why? Because you're fucking up my city. Because you're walking all over people like you own them. And you wanna know the worst part? You're from out of state.
I'm sorry, but you're from out of state. Rednecks don't like outsiders, you know, especially mustachioed Italian-looking outsiders like Vittorio Gassman. Especially when you have a redneck cop on the case like Burt Reynolds in Sharky's Machine. And this character can go in 2 opposite directions. The blissful idiot savant who saves the world, or the crazed gap-toothed hillbilly predator. And it's not that strange when you think about it, because Southern fiction is full of crippled up people, either mentally or physically. And more importantly, Southern life is full of crippled up people, because from the time of the Civil War until very recently, there were what I would call oddly shaped people in the South, okay? But unlike the North, they were integrated for the most part into society. So you had a lot of one-legged men and men with eye patches and people with various forms of palsy, and most of them were prominent in the community though, because what would happen is they came back from World War II or Korea or Vietnam with mangled bodies, because the South always led the nation in military enlistment. And so the tradition at the time was give those guys jobs and elect them to office. That's all we can do with them, you know? So every newspaper kiosk was run by a blind man. And if you went to any state agency, you were likely to be served by people in wheelchairs. And there was a guy on my street who had a rubber hand. And we kids would go over there twice a week to look at his rubber hand, and he was happy to show it off, you know. Another guy on my same street had a steel plate in his head that he could bounce things off of just for pure entertainment value. But in the South, unlike the North, the prevalence of injuries that you would see every day extended to mental injuries. Now, if you attended the minor league baseball games at Ray Winder Field in Little Rock, Arkansas, there was a gate out in left field that opened onto the grounds of the Arkansas State Lunatic Asylum. About a half hour before every game, they would open that gate and all the mental patients would pour into the stadium and take their seats in the left field bleachers that were set aside for them. And when they came through the gates, they were always led by a patient named Willie. Willie had no last name as far as I know. Willie would run at top speed into the stadium wearing an Arkansas Travelers uniform. The Travelers were the farm team of the St. Louis Cardinals, so it looked like a Cardinals uniform. And he would take the mound and he would throw 10 fastballs to the delight of the crowd, because he would hit the dead center of the catcher's mitt almost every time, because apparently he had been a professional baseball player before he went crazy. So they didn't do stuff like that in the North. That was a Southern thing. Anyway, my point is the South did not hide from physical or mental deformities. They were right there with you every day. So if you were a businessman and you were doing your duty, you were expected to hire a few ex-cons and hire a few crippled people as a way to ease them back into society, which is a very Scottish thing. The assumption that you're going to see the same people in prison that you see out of prison, and some of them are going to be family members. So there was this landscape of damaged people out there. Now, I don't know where they all went, but it was...
Did you see that? They went right through a roadblock.
You some bitches couldn't close an umbrella.
Listen, I don't care if your daddy is the mayor. You wreck this car, it's gonna come out of your pay.
Yeah, but Sheriff, he's getting away.
Son, he's not going anywhere. The Mulberry Bridge has been dismantled for the past 6 months.
Oh. That's not good.
It would be better with a whole bridge.
That's worse.
Why don't you just drop me off here? I'll catch a cab.
Too late now.
We did it! We did it!
See? I didn't wreck it, Sheriff.
Okay, did you notice that the deputy's car just goes straight bumper down into the ditch while Bert's Trans Am sails so far over the creek that as it enters the woods on the other side, it appears to still be rising, which would seem to be impossible? I like to think there's a reason for that. Somebody looked down from heaven and saw a redneck fighting the government, the police, popular perception, the snooty opinions of motion picture executives, and the accumulated snobbery of 400 years, and he said, "Bless you, my son." It was places in the United States and in Canada and other parts of the world to build little Hollywoods wherever you are, because we believe that the era of centralized monopolies distributing films is over. The winning films tonight are excellent examples of what people can do outside the system, and each of these filmmakers is going to receive a Drive-In Academy Award, better known as the Hubby because it's engraved on a Chevy hubcap. And past recipients of the Hubby, by the way, include Roger Corman and Arnold Schwarzenegger and Stephen King and Billy Bob Thornton. And all of those guys, though, they got their Hubbies before they were cool. They got their Hubbies, you know, really early in their careers. So Billy Bob Thornton, in fact, told me it was the only award he had ever received at the time that he got his Hubby. He got it for the movie Chopper Chicks in Zombie Town, if anybody remembers that movie. At any rate, I'm not going to spoil the films by telling you about them in advance. I don't think anybody knows the actual winners except a handful of people. I don't even think the judges know. It's just a handful of people know the winners. But we have 2 features tonight and 10 short films, and all of these films are winners of Hubbies. And after each one, Darcy the Mail Girl will award the Hubby, and I'll have some brief remarks. And if you win, please come up on the stage, and we will not make you talk unless you want to talk. We would like it if you have a few remarks for the audience. But without further ado, we have to get it started because we think that all this storm situation is going to pass away in about 10 minutes, and so we'll be okay. And we need to get the show started. So the first film on tonight's program of Mutant Fest Hubby Winners is a short film called Down Jersey. Tonight. We have gathered all the drive-in mutants from eastern Pennsylvania and points west. I know a family that drove in from West Texas. Roasted maid legends of unquoted sea demons, rock flipping, dead rat dangling, tongue ripping, coffin sex, fire fingers, close-up eyeball gouging, arm severing, neck snapping, exploding neck, iron bar through the heart, flying door bolts, multiple zombie attacks, disembodied reanimated arm attack, one giant animal spirit demon, one black swan, hooky jerky, demonic tail, and singing, one lesbianic demon transfer French kiss, one dancing with 70s strobe light, gratuitous full moon, gratuitous demonology lesson, gratuitous animated feature cartoon titles, head roll, arm roll, shoplifting food, seance food, redhead broken mirror food, lipstick nipple food, flamethrower food. Y'all can tell me what number is it for? Hal Havens as the party animal turned Florida demon. And the rest of the world dick nose and Mooney overly is saying, shut up and drive, bitch. Howard Ayer as the geezer who likes to buy double-edged Gillette razor blades at Halloween for saying, I don't need your help, you damn little whore. That's thanks for your sister to play with. And is everybody here on drugs or something? I live in a Minecraft and plastic slip covers on the furniture. Linnea Quigley. Entrances in exploitation film history for being the good time girl who goes full frontal, turns into a sex demon, and says, you guys have sour balls? Johnny Jetcoat as the little brother, he says, are you dating her for her personality or because she has big cock eyes? Kevin Erickson as the mom who makes the world's most disgusting butt jaws. Amelia Kincaid as the woman is saying, this house is not haunted, it's possessed. And we're doing the demon dance. Kathy Caldwell as Judy, the Alice in Wonderland boring nice girl, who thinks her boyfriend is too horny and says, just hold me. Alvin Alexis as Roger is saying, I know better than to be fooling with this stuff. This is the house of the dead. Steve Johnson is Crystal Buckhurst, who spent so much time building prosthetics on naked women that he married one of them. And Kevin Kinney, the director, is saying, do we have a little bit more mucus on their faces, please, and not quite disgusting enough.
3 stars. Go up to pick it up. I realized earlier this week that I introduced this film on the movie channel in the year 1990. And in 1990, I only gave it 2.5 stars. So, how did it earn the extra half star over the past 31 years? Maybe 1.5, maybe not. But let me put it this way. For the 33-year-old movie, makes it to the last drive-in, they must have been doing something right. These movies like What's Next Door, but you read it either way. But who is thrilled to be at the Mahoning tonight?
That means they'll probably take breaks in between like they do at the show. Shit, yeah. Fucking rain feels good after how fucking hot it's been the past 2 days. Seen this before? Oh. You've never? Oh, okay. I like it. It's fun.
Stay right there. And Renee, you are the expert in exploitation film dancing. So get up and show us what would you add to the Angela Demon Dance repertoire?
I would move it on up and move it on down.
Amelia, you are the ultimate expert because you are the choreographer. You're the one that did the Angela Demon Dance. You are a professional dancer. So what have we left out of the Angela Demon Dance?
I think we have to go and break your back.
Break your back. Okay. So John, those are the 3 basic moves in the Angela Demon Dance we're going to do tonight. What do you got for us?
I think maybe I'll just add, get possessed by a demon. Okay?
Okay. So what's that move?
I know.
It goes like this.
Go ahead.
I think let's just start with the drum first. Let's just get the drum. Let's practice, okay?
Okay.
And everybody out there, you can practice along with us, okay?
Downstage center, Downstage center.
Everybody up!
Yeah!
Scarf strangling, vehicular skull crushing, automotive coitus, one motorcycle crash, one car crash, one cliff plunge, over-the-top ceramic doll imagery, Antonioni rip-off shots, gratuitous roadside hookers, gratuitous extended dialogue about Pietro Perugino, gratuitous awkward lesbianic makeout session with stripping, gratuitous naked sunbathing with Peeping Tom. Actually, that would be Peeping Tommaso. Gratuitous skinny dipping, eyeballs roll, legs roll, kung fu, fist foo, muddy bob foo, miniskirt foo, cistern foo, hacksaw foo, grapple hook foo, and Driving Academy Award nominations for Christina Iroldi as Carol for saying, "I'm too expensive for you," to a perv staring up her skirt. John Richardson as Franz, the know-it-all professor. Susie Kendall as Jane, the American student. Robert Biasco as Stefano, the lovesick stalker with a hooker habit. Ernesto Gastaldi for a damn near perfect script. And Sergio Martino, the director, for doing things the driving way. Awesome! Come on, please check it out. There's an interesting thing with actresses of the 60s and early 70s, because I've interviewed quite a few of them. And if you interview them today, you ask a question like, how did you feel about all that nudity? They say, what do you mean? That's what we did. You know, there was a whole generation who just felt like it was not exploitation, it was freedom. Rip off that bra. You know, Tina Almont, who plays Daniela in this movie, she was one of those famous hippies of that era. But she was one of those jet-setter hippies. She was a limousine hippie, basically a party girl who went to nightclubs like her whole life. But her attitude toward drugs, sex, whatever was, we're free, we're finally free, meaning it was a feminist thing. But actually, why am I talking about this? We have one of the leading crusaders in the Free the Nipple movement, Darcy the Mail Girl. Darcy, has civilization advanced or regressed since the early 70s?
Sadly, the nipple remains censored.
The nipple remains censored. Not on this show, it doesn't!
That's exactly why I'm proud to be here, and I'm proud that we're showing this movie today.
All right. We are dedicated to liberating anything in a bra, Darcy.
That's enough of that.
Just trying to be feminist.
Good job.
Of bringing decadent behavior to Italy, causing all this commotion. You know, shouldn't have been our bucket in that flimsy car under a bench. So you're right that you got eviscerated. Yes, they even took the stalker Stefano. People in the theaters were literally screaming at the screen, "Don't open the door!" And then that epic fist fight to the death where Luke Miranda uses every ounce of his French foot fighting to knock Franz off the cliff. And then that slow reveal where she doesn't know which man is walking toward her through the barn. And so the killer is the very first face we see in the movie, the art history professor who hates Perugino and hits on Jane. And that role, by the way, was played by John Richardson, who unfortunately just died of COVID earlier this year, just 2 weeks shy of his 87th birthday. John Richardson was considered one of the most classically handsome men in the world. When Raquel Welch first met him on the set of 1 Million Years BC, she complained he was more beautiful in his loincloth than she was in her bikini. So we know him, of course, from his breakout role opposite Barbara Steele in Mario Bava's Black Sunday. He was the doctor's assistant whose blood brings Barbara Steele back to life. He was also the love interest of Ursula Andress in She, as the archaeologist who discovers the lost city where the queen believes he is her reincarnated lover. He made several spaghetti westerns. He married Martine Beswick, and the two of them moved to Hollywood, where he was in quite a few big budget movies. But he didn't like California, so they moved to Rome, and he was in quite a few of the Italian horrors, including Eyeball for Umberto Lenzi, The Church for Michele Soavi. He retired from acting in the 80s and became a professional photographer. But he was such a car nut that he would frequently make his payments for acting in the form of an automobile. So anyway, he almost always played romantic leads and heroes, so he was perfect in this movie as the killer. Torso premiered in Trieste because it had censorship problems in Rome, and it did very well at the box office the first week, but then the second week, Last Tango in Paris came out and it got buried. It really wasn't rediscovered until very recently, past 15 years or so. Robert Rodriguez hosted a screening of it at the South by Southwest Festival in Austin in 2007. His purpose was to show the audience what his movie Grindhouse would be like. The other example he used that day was also Italian, Lucio Fulci's Zombie 2. I mentioned before that this was the first time Sergio Martino had a big-time producer. Carlo Ponti produced the film, and Carlo did not want Luke Morinda for the lead in the film. He wanted Max von Sydow, but von Sydow turned it down because the role seemed to have limited screen time. I don't think it matters, but that's what he thought. Fabio Testi also turned it down. Luke Morinda had just recently arrived in Rome from France, and he had only been in one film, a Western, but Martino thought he had the right kind of strong and typical face that could read as either a killer or a hero. Anyway, Sergio Martino would go on to make about 70 films, working until he was well into his 70s. Comedies, westerns, sci-fi, sports films, but his most famous works are his horror films, which make up a very small part of his output. Most of Martino's horror films and his comedies actually starred his sister-in-law, Edviga Fenech. His daughter, big Edviga Fenech fan. His daughter, Federica Martino, is also a filmmaker. She and
Will and Beast, but the other two B's dominated.
Actually, I have a question about this movie. You know, the title they used in Italy was "The Bodies Show Traces of Sexual Violence." I love the title. And in some countries it was known as carnal violence. But I don't think the killer cared about sex. I mean, there's no sexual element. I mean, he's not a Ted Bundy. He's more like a Jason Voorhees. He just likes to kill.
I think he undresses the women when he kills them.
He undresses. I think Sergio Martino undresses the women as he kills them. But he just flashes back to that doll story from his childhood because the little bitch girl killed his brother. And he gouges their eyes out, but he didn't want to have sex with them.
Maybe gouging their eyes out is his version of sex. Just
Oh, girl!
Yes, it can.
Let's read one more letter from the crowd, and then we have a special presentation.
Only one?
It's getting kind of late. We have one letter from the crowd.
All right.
Read that big one.
It's gotta be this one then.
They wrote on back of a picture that we would normally autograph. They didn't want the picture. The picture of us, but they didn't want it. They wanted to use it for the. You want me to read it? It's from Brian and Meredith of Bear Creek, PA. Have you ever had any desire to write, produce, or direct a film? Or will you ever show Halloween 3? Thank you.
Yes.
They were giving me a choice of which question to answer. It's an either or. So I've decided to answer, have you ever had any desire to write, produce,
let people
or
down.
direct a film? And the answer is no. No, actually, I have had a desire to write a film, or produce a film, direct a film. That is so detail oriented and like you got to be like a monomaniac for years, and I don't think I could direct the film, but I could possibly write a film, although it's a very specialized form of writing. Very few people can do it. I would love to produce a film though. I would love to produce a film and make all the other people do the work. Like, you know, like great young writers, great young actors, great, you know, and be I would love to be the Roger Corman guy. You know, okay, you're gonna write, you're gonna direct, you're gonna work together. Okay?
I can see that.
So maybe someday, you know, that's what we'll do.
Woo!
All right. Now, do you have it ready?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. Do you want to do the honors?
How about you do it, because I can't talk very well right now.
All right. Okay. The 2021 winner of the Drive-In Lifetime Achievement Award, whose name is engraved on this Chevy hubcap, is Jeff Maddox. So
Yes! Woo!
Jeff Maddox has been managing theaters and running 35mm projectors for 43 years.
Yep.
Ever since he learned the art of film projection when he was serving in the Air Force, and he spends his days working at a local radio station, and he spends his nights practicing the vanishing art of working with actual celluloid. He's been the chief projectionist at the Mahoning Drive-In for 18 years. But when it looked like the Mahoning was going to shut down forever in 2014, he said to the owner of the business, I will buy this business from you. At the very lowest point of the Mahoning. And he didn't know how he was going to do it. He certainly didn't have the money for a digital projector as everyone was changing over to digital. But he knew somehow he was going to save the theater from destruction. And starting in 2016, I think, or 2015, the Mahoning became a retro classic theater, still using the old 35mm film reels. And thanks to some dedicated fans who shared his vision, the Mahoning not only survived but thrived. And as
Woo!
testament to the power of one man dedicated to the proposition that the drive-in will never die, the Mahoning is now in its 73rd year of continuous operation. And to recognize the man who made that possible, we're going to present this same award, by the way, has previously been accepted by Stephen King, Roger Corman, Arnold Schwarzenegger. So congratulations to Jeff, but because Jeff, because of a series of circumstances, cannot be at the drive-in tonight, we're going to present it to the team that helped him turn the Mahoning into that successful retro drive-in theater back in 2015 and 2016, and that team is, and I have to read this because I never get their titles right. They always work together as a trio, but it's Mark Nelson, the general manager. Come on out, Mark. And JT Mills, the production manager. Come on out, JT. And last but certainly not least, I call him the P.T. Barnum of the Mahoning, but his official title is curator and partner, Virgil Cardamone. These are the three guys who day to day, week to week, all through the season of the Mahoning, make miracles happen here all the time. I'm going to talk a little bit before I give you the award. The Mahoning is not the prettiest drive-in that ever existed. It's not located in the best location in America. It doesn't have any of the advantages of a big multi-screen drive-in. Okay, it just has a soul and a spirit that no other place has. And these are the three guys that created that. And so, on behalf of Jeff, you know, I would say, you know, in 2014, there was one guy sitting alone in the projection booth on nights when 6 cars would show up, you know, and Jeff had the faith to keep it going, and you 3 guys came along and said, Jeff, we want to help you, and the Mahoning still exists to this day, and so please give this to Jeff and we love you and we thank you for letting us broadcast on the beautiful drive on this special night.
Thank you guys. This is absolutely amazing.
Okay. And with that, I want to thank everyone who shared this special event with us. It's the first time we've ever done the last drive-in for a live audience. And I'm going to say it once again, the drive-in will never die. Thanks, okay, go. Snail walks into a bar.
Oh my god. You're even doing a joke after that.
All right, maybe I shouldn't do a joke.
Right.
Do a joke!
Do your joke.
Snail walks into a bar. Bartender says, "You're late. It's 2 in the morning. We're closed." The snail begs and pleads for just one beer. Bartender says, "No way. Come back tomorrow." Day later, snail walks back into the bar. Bartender says, "You're late again. You can't come here after 2 o'clock." The snail begs for a beer. The bartender says, "You know, I'm really sick of you." And he kicks the snail through the door and he slams the door shut. 1 year later, snail walks into the bar. The snail says, "What'd you do that for?"
The tireless local cop who says, "I want every available officer scouting the desert." James Arness as the FBI agent who doesn't think much of civil liberties when the survival of the earth is at stake. Edward Gwynn as the Department of Agriculture scientist who says, "We may be witnesses for a biblical prophecy come true, the time of destruction and darkness, and the beasts shall reign over the earth." Fess Parker as the pilot thrown into a loony bin for claiming he was forced down by flying saucers in the shape of ants. And Gordon Douglas, the director, for doing things the drive-in way. 4 stars. Joe Bob says, check it out. How you doing over there, Lieutenant? Stankin' in the crosshairs!
This is not the way to do this.
Darcy, how many mutant zombie creatures have you killed?
Exactly.
That's it. Thank you for being with me tonight, Darcy.
I wouldn't have missed it for the world.
Will you buy a weapon now, probably?
No.
Darcy, guns don't kill people. Zombies kill people. Do you know they use the Wilhelm scream 3 times in that final sequence?
No, but something tells me I'm going to hear about it.
Yeah, same sound effect when James Whitmore is gored by the ant. Then again when all the debris falls on the soldier. And then again when they kill, the ants try to kill James Arness. So 3 guys, same scream.
Fascinating.
It is, right? Voice of Sheb Woolley, creator of the Purple People Eater. Would you like me to sing Purple People Eater?
No. No.
Okay. We should say goodnight to the people who sat through this, though.
Good night. And remember, guns are not the answer.
Right. Chemical death sprays and flamethrowers are the answer.
No.
Multiple offensive weaponry.
Do you ever stop?
No. Actually, I am stopping. I'm stopping right now. So, good night, everybody. Say good night, Darcy.
Good night, Darcy.
The drive-in will never die.